Sponsored by RingConn. Of the deluge of devices Samsung premiered in Paris in July, two stood out. The Galaxy Watch Ultra is a titanium timepiece aimed at deep-sea divers, mountain climbers, or those willing to spend $649 to look like either of those. It's been mercilessly mocked across the cruel mobile tech social-scape for taking its design cues from a certain Cupertino corporation. But in this video, I'll make the argument that that influence isn't as important as what a mixed bag of a product it is. Meanwhile, the Galaxy Buds 3 Pro are... I'm gonna look you in the eye when I say this. The best earbuds I've used in years. The best earbuds I've used. They're comfortable, they sound fantastic, they last forever, and look, light strips. But they've got the opposite problem. Despite their excellence, they look every inch like the Airpod knockoffs Samsung swears up and down they aren't. Quick word about the Apple thing. There's been a lot of discourse about this already, and this tends to happen when people get fired up about shit that doesn't matter. A lot of it has turned toxic. So while I do think it's still important to address it, I'm going to save it for the end of the video. Let's first talk about the products. Litterbox. Good audio though, right? 7 years ago, Samsung expanded upon the wearable legacy it began back in 2013 by shipping a circle-on-squircle smartwatch ruggedized for rough-and-tumble lifestyles called the Gear Sport. But it was small and slight, and like all Samsung watches of its time, it ran the company's homegrown Tizen software. So the beefy Galaxy Watch Ultra comes as a welcome update, based on Google's new Wear OS 5. Aesthetically, this is the biggest departure we've seen in years from the traditional round Galaxy Watch. The casing is grade 4 titanium, the crystal is sapphire, and it carries 3 separate durability ratings, including 10 atmosphere water resistance. The health sensor now packs 14 LEDs instead of the usual 4 for greater precision. The GPS is dual band instead of single for greater precision. And the universal strap mount has been replaced by a new dynamic lug system for greater profits. In white with the marine strap, it kind of reminds me of the special edition NASA Casio G-Shock. It's summery, it's sporty, and despite the fact that it's optimized for athletics and therefore not at all up my alley, I mostly dig it. I'm actually a big fan of specialty timepieces like this. Even though I rarely get onto a sailboat these days and only climb mountains expressly for the purpose of making a YouTube video, Garmin's Mark Captain is a compelling combination of solid features, great battery life, and a distinctive look that commands respect without trying too hard. Sadly, thanks to a series of puzzling decisions by Samsung, I can't say the same for the Ultra. Take the new Quick button, which is a dedicated shortcut to the fitness suite. Great, makes sense. But it's placed at the 3 o'clock position, right where almost every other Wear OS watch has trained us to expect the home button. So I'm always clicking it by accident to try to return to the watch face. To be fair, Samsung has stayed true to its legacy layout, home at 2 o'clock, back at 4 o'clock. But for anyone not used to that, frankly unintuitive interface, adding this big orange button right in the center is an engraved invitation to constant misclicks. Oh, and speaking of clicks, the buttons have the shallow feel of computer keys, rather than the chunky clunk of proper pushers that personally I would have preferred. Now, in older versions of Wear OS, the button functions were flexible, but as also reflected by the fact that you can no longer use Facer on Wear OS 5 for custom watch faces, a big loss for customizability, Google and Samsung keep removing more choice. You get a tiny handful of options for the quick or home buttons, while the back button is locked to recent apps or Samsung Wallet. The only thing you can truly customize is what happens when you double press home. Why? Why can't I double press the back key? Why can't the quick button do more? And why, on its chunkiest watch in years, didn't Samsung fit its fan favorite feature, the active bezel? Lexi over at CNET makes the good point that fewer moving parts on an action accessory makes sense, But this is the same company that's figured out how to make hinges work on foldables and make them better every generation for 6 years running. Sure, the virtual bezel is here, and the haptics that fake its clicks are very good, but it's still a poor substitute for that inspired trademark of an interface method that Samsung seems devoted to de-emphasizing. Truly, I don't get it. I also don't understand why a watch this mammoth has such mediocre battery life. The OnePlus Watch 2 gets me 3 days, while the TicWatch Pro 5 can last a whole work week. The best I can get out of the Ultra is 48 hours. Granted, I pull no punches. I use the new sleep tracking feature, so I wear it to bed. I get a lot of notifications all day, and I do enable the always-on display, because a watch should always tell the time without you having to do anything. But that's how I test all my watches. And things don't get any better when you need to charge it. It takes 2 hours to go from empty to full. And due to that new health sensor, you can't charge the watch off the back of your phone like you used to. If I hiked more trails or swam more laps, maybe I'd feel these sacrifices were worth it. The fundamentals like notifications are fine, automatic detection of workouts is reliable, and voice calls are clear, but a little quieter than I'd expect, especially given how loud the distress siren can get.
Whoa.
Sorry, buddies. But I don't think it's a stretch to say that a lot of people buy that other Watch Ultra for the cachet that the more expensive version provides. And I don't see this watch pulling off a similar cultural coup. Especially not with the crooked dials that have started to pop up on Reddit. Now, between the watch and the buds, of course, is a third category of accessory. And no, I don't mean the Galaxy Ring. You might remember RingConn as the sponsor whose ring taught me what excited me the most at CES back in January. And now that same sponsor is back in style with the all-new RingConn Gen 2. Now, it may not look all that different, but this is actually the world's tiniest smart ring, bottoming out at just 2 millimeters and 2 grams in its smallest size. Despite that, you still get 10 to 12 days of battery life, or more than 150 days with the portable charging case. That means you can wear it anywhere you play, work, or work out, and all through the night. RingConn Gen 2 is the first smart ring with sleep apnea monitoring, with over 90% accuracy detecting OSA. Oh, and it's water resistant, as I learned when I accidentally put it through the wash. It's fine. Best of all, RingConn is compatible with both Android and iOS, and there's no subscription fee either. RingConn Gen 2 is on Kickstarter now, with early bird pricing available until September 14th. Hit the link in the description to get yours, and thanks to RingConn for sponsoring this video. Now, in happier news than we got from the Watch Ultra, these are my new best buds. In fact, Galaxy Buds 3 Pro really isn't a dramatic enough name for these, given what a sea change they represent. And maybe something like Airbuds would have been more fitting, though I guess that's taken. Some context here. I used to be a religiously over-the-ears headphones kind of guy, because for a long time that was the only way a constant traveler like me could get the best combo of noise canceling, comfort, and battery life. And earbuds that got close always seemed to have big compromises. Like the comfortable and smart Pixel Buds turned out to be buggy. The striking nothing earbuds slacked on battery. And the tiny Galaxy Buds 2 were awful for voice calls. Well, the $249 Buds 3 Pro deliver on all that. Noise canceling, whose shut out the world silence is equaled by their almost perfect bring in the world transparency mode. Voice commands that don't require a wake word. Volume up. Volume down. Touch controls that only take a little getting used to. IP57 dust and water resistance, a battery big enough to last 10 days and 3 flights before I had to charge the case. Unlike the watch, the buds do top up wirelessly, on a phone or otherwise. And finally, a combination of microphones and algorithms that make your voice sound like something other than hot trash on a voice call. I took a 45-minute call right next to a busy highway, right on a breezy beach. And I know that it's weird that those things can coexist, but believe me, that is a true story. Rockaway's a strange place. And the other party couldn't even tell that I was outside. They're incredible. As for the audio quality on my end, I find these outstanding. But as you may know, I'm not much of an audiophile. So feel free to check out Brandon Lee's coverage over at This Is Tech Today, since he's had them for about 3 months. Get a little closer, and there's a lot to love here. The orange and blue accent tabs, which kind of remind me of running lights on a ship. They lend a little color to an otherwise bland look, and help you figure out which bud goes where when you dock them. And then, of course, there's the LEDs. For better or worse, I'm kind of a maximalist, and I much prefer a brand to step over the line of good taste than never even approach it. I love these LED strips. They indicate charge state, they can flash to help you find them, or you can just turn them on and leave them on to let everyone know that no, they're not AirPods. But it is a shame that that last step is even necessary for some. In silver, the Buds 3 Pro are distinctive enough to mostly get away with their similarity to Apple's product. But in glossy white, it's just ridiculous. Samsung's preferred means of addressing this up to this point has been denial and deflection. The company told Inverse it didn't think about Apple in the design process and didn't care about the resulting similarity. The company went even further at Samsung Unpacked in Paris, telling everybody in the pre-brief that, quote, "We stayed true to our design heritage," unquote. I'm not proud of this, but I will admit, I laughed out loud. The Watch Ultra is less blatant, but specific aspects, like the orange strap and blood red night mode, are pretty direct lifts. If you don't care about that, or if you're one of the people who thinks, what, does Apple have a patent on the color orange? Is actually a good faith question worthy of debate? Well, that's why I saved this stuff for the end. Feel free to click away. But the nature of a competitive technology landscape with highly polarized players is that many customers do care that the product they buy reflects the brand they're buying and not their direct competitor. After all, if knockoff AirPods are what you actually want, there are far cheaper ways of getting them. And more broadly, this move represents a regression that, as someone who's covered Samsung for 13 years, I find sad. I remember when Samsung released phones that were so derivative of the iPhone that Apple sued to stop it. Thankfully, the company rediscovered its originality in the following years, eventually becoming a leader that brought big screens, folding screens, styli, and powerful cameras to the mainstream, all while building up its own distinctive brand identity. So it's disappointing to see Samsung surrender some of the ground it gained, backsliding into a company that, from a design perspective, I find it more difficult to become excited by. So I'll be buying the Buds, because they really are that good, but only once the silver ones come back around on the website. Samsung has temporarily held all sales while it corrects a problem with the silicone ear gels cracking, a problem I haven't personally experienced, but still a bloody nose that, along with that watch face issue, might indicate some quality assurance problems that I'll keep an eye out for elsewhere in the portfolio. Disclosure time. This video was produced following 2 weeks with Galaxy Watch Ultra and Galaxy Buds 3 Pro review samples provided by Samsung, which also provided travel, lodging, and food and drink during Mr. Mobile's attendance at Samsung Unpacked 2024 in Paris. That being said, the company had no editorial input into this content and furnished no compensation in exchange for its production. The lone sponsor of this video is RingConn. Oh, and that being the case, don't stay tuned for a Galaxy Ring review. I would find that conflict of interest difficult to surmount. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Until next time, from Michael Fisher, Captain Two Phones on Threads, thanks for watching, and stay mobile, my friends.